through a few exercise ideas for ankle rehab, and this one is just specifically targeted at Achilles tendinopathy. So we're going to just start with some foot exercises. So if you have flat feet or dropped arches or overpronate, then the first exercise is good for that. So we're just going to look at medial arch lifts. So moving down to the feet, and we're looking at that inside arch of the foot. So we're going to start by just finding where your arch actually sits. So you're just going to find the two bones on either side of the ankle there, and then drop below that, and what you'll be then on is your talus, which is the first bone in your foot. So we want that to sit in a neutral position, which means that it's not poking out more on the inside or the outside. So when your foot rolls inward, it should poke out more. Your foot's rolling out, but your arch is dropping. You should feel the bone poking out a little bit more. When you roll your foot out and lift the inside arch, you should feel it pushing out more. And so if we find where the foot is in its neutral position, that's where we want to try to hold the foot position there. So we want to make sure that we're going to strengthen the muscles inside the arch of the foot and in through the inside of the ankle. So we're going to, in this position, once we find that neutral position, we want to think about trying to draw the ball of the big toe towards the heel. So you're going to think about just slightly turning it in as you shorten the arch. We want to keep the muscles at the top of the foot relaxed, so try not to let that muscle poke out in the ankle as we do it, or the toes sort of spring up, or the toes curl as we do it either. So we want to try to keep the toes nice and relaxed. Again, just think about as if the arch is shortening like a caterpillar about to sort of crawl along the floor. We want to try to hold that for 20 seconds. And then relax. Now, if you're managing to do that in sitting, again without too much activity through those muscles, then you want to try to hold that as you come up into standing without losing that shape to the arch. And if you can manage that in standing on 2 feet, then trying to balance on 1 foot, holding that arch lift. And again, looking to try to balance and hold for about 20 seconds. If you have quite high arches, so naturally I have quite high arches, then you might want to use a massage ball or a tennis ball and roll that from the heel to the front of the foot to try and get that to just lengthen and stretch. Everyone can have the same problem, but coming from sort of 2 areas, of one being kind of a lot of tightness through that foot and a lot of stiffness through the foot, and then other people having too much movement and then having a flat foot. So whichever one you happen to be. If you're not sure, then a good way to do it is to wet your foot and then stand on the concrete or deck or some dry surface, and then just see what sort of imprint your foot leaves on the floor. And if you can't see much of a join from your heel to the front of your foot, then you know you've got a high arch. If you see quite a lot of join, then you know that you're going more towards that flat foot. So you can choose your exercises accordingly for that. Next ones we're going to do are just going to be some front slides and back slides. So with these ones, you might not be able to see my head, but that's okay. And so what we're going to try and do is, again, once we've mastered the art of balancing on 1 foot, it's best if you can do this on a firm surface, a slidey surface, and if you've got a sock that you can put on your foot so that your foot can slide well. And it's just going to do some front slides. So the front slides just involves a little knee bend as we slide the opposite foot in front. So if we're looking at strengthening our left leg, we're going to be on the left leg, sliding the right leg out in front. What we don't want is a lot of weight transference forward at this stage, just trying to keep your weight fairly even on the back foot, keeping the weight sort of into the heel. Your knee is still going to come forward over your toe. As you gain more confidence, then you'll be able to start reaching further and further out with that. We also want to make sure that we're keeping our knee in line with the second and third toe. Now, what we're doing with these exercises is strengthening the hip and the knee control, but we're also, as we're going down, we're actually working the calf muscle eccentrically. So it's important to just do this nice and slow and then bringing it back up. Nice and slow and bringing it back up. Again, try to just use something that you can slide nice and easily. Okay, next exercise is going to be just doing some tandem walking. This is again just looking at the ankle balance. So we're just going to be thinking of going heel to toe, heel to toe. If you've got a long hallway, it's good to use that for this exercise. Try and maintain your balance. Imagine that you've got a little book on top of your head that you're trying to keep nice and steady. Okay, and I would probably suggest trying to do at least sort of 20 meters of that walking balance, heel to toe. And then we'll go into, from there, backward walking. So you can just start with backward walking nice and slow, but if you can then progress to doing it with your toe to your heel in that tandem position as well. So backward walking is just, again, going from there, just take it nice and slow. Nice and slow. Again, we're working on that eccentric motion, and we're also looking at that movement of the toes, so making sure we're going from the toe, ball of the foot, heel, toe, ball of the foot, heel, and this is just helping to also control if you tend to hyperextend your knees. So sometimes when the foot gets sore, we start to kind of lock the knee back a little bit too much and walk very flat-footed and very stiff. So it's just really working on trying to improve that control again with that backward walking. So again, looking at kind of getting at least a 20 meter run of that, and that can be done a few times, 2 times, 3 times a day as well. And then other things like using the exercycle, getting out on a bike and doing as much other cardio that's non-loading on the tendon. So loading really just refers to kind of any action where that tendon has to act like a rubber band or a spring. So generally walking, running, jumping, hopping, anything like that is going to put some pressure on the tendons. So if the foot stays planted to the ground, it's a little bit better than if it's having to go up and down off the ground and kind of decelerate your momentum forward when you're walking. So looking at what exercises you can do that aren't putting pressure on that, and then trying to monitor the exercises that do put pressure on it and building those up gradually. So when we look at putting load on it, one of the ways we can do that is just to start with isometric contraction. So isometric contraction just means that you're holding a contraction, and this can have an analgesic effect on the muscles. So if we're in standing and we raise up just a couple of inches off the ground, we should think about tightening the calf muscle and holding that contraction. And if you're not too sore, you can hold for up to 40 seconds or 45 seconds. Otherwise, just starting with 10 seconds or 20 seconds and then slowly lowering back down. And then again, just a little lift and hold. Repeat this 6 times, and it's really good to do before you go for a walk. If you're feeling comfortable with that, then as you go up, hold, shift a bit more of your weight onto the side that's problematic, and hold your contraction, and then slowly lower back down again. Okay, so that's how we go up. Transfer the weight across. You don't want to experience pain more than about a 3 out of 10. And smoothly back down. And ideally that any discomfort that you do feel should get better as you do a few more of them. If not, we might need to take it back another step and find an exercise that's not aggravating. And then from there, we slowly progress into more of a what we call eccentric loading program, but that's a good way to start out.